I feel like Gilbert has picked a fight with local media, and I feel like it's not going to go very well for the elected officials in Gilbert. I think part of this is the national scene, where we're seeing some politicians with some success and sort of dragging people over to their side and condemning certain media and that sort of thing, except on a local level, it doesn't work nearly as well. And we're close enough to the people in local media that we know people that work for the Republic, that work for KTAR. We know people around the area, and you don't have the degrees of separation. If you're Donald Trump saying the New York Times hates me, well, I've never been close to an editorial meeting of the New York Times. Maybe they do hate him. Right? Mm-hmm. Whereas around here, somebody says KTAR hates Gilbert, you can call me and ask me specifically. We'll put you on the air. You can call me off the air. I'll tell you, I don't hate Gilbert. I'll be in Gilbert later this afternoon. I love Gilbert. It's great.
Yeah, we got a lot bigger things to do than sit around and talk about how we do or don't hate a city, too.
But that said, our job is to pay attention to what's going on and bring to light news stories that affect people around the valley, right?
Inform, entertain.
So here's what we have going on with Gilbert here, because Robert Englund and Elena Santa Cruz, I always say it wrong.
Elena.
It's Elena Santa Cruz.
Okay.
I worked on that for a long time.
I thought it was like Helena, but just Elena.
But with a little bit of a little pizzazz.
All right. Hey, you definitely have
Elena Santa Cruz.
You have the picante more than I do. That exactly.
I worked hard on that.
That's good.
Because otherwise I just sound like a fat Midwest white guy trying to speak Spanish, and it doesn't work. I got to work at it.
Hey,
you got to work at that.
You're great.
A group of teenage boys pulled up to a house in Gilbert, their phones primed to record a beatdown, goes the latest story. It was after dinner on a Saturday in September. The posh Seville subdivision was typically quiet. The victim's family, social media accounts, and police reports detailed what happened next. The boys coaxed a 16-year-old out for some car talk to show off their new ride. He barely made it to the end of the driveway before he was attacked. The victim's mother said they swarmed her son and left him lying on the pavement. She called police. Suspects were identified. Charges were recommended. How many arrests do you think they made, Joe?
I'm going to go with 0.
0 is correct. Very good. Oh, we're starting to pick up a pattern here. In fact, do you recall when we first had inclinations that there was youth violence going on, that the Gilbert Goons were an organized street gang? You remember all the arrests that were happening at that time?
I do. A whole lot of none.
None was the case. What about...
but hey, they were working hard.
Oh, we're checking our sources, and we're checking them twice, except for the cases we closed because we didn't feel like we could pursue those.
Well, and it was the public's fault, too. They
didn't tell us that it was a gang.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to know?
Yeah.
You remember the story from back in July when the girls were in the garage? They called it a barn or whatever. Right?
I do. It was like an RV garage, something like that.
The barn in the back of the house. This is in Gilbert. A group of teenage girls having movie night. The victims, police reports, and court testimony detailed what happened next. The boys being upset at being snubbed by one of the girls escalated from name-calling to stalking to arson. Masked teens, it's easy to say, lit explosive devices, tossed them into the barn, and then motored off on electric bikes. The barn went up like a Roman candle. You and I talked about this at length. It was $1 million in loss. Police arrested 2 of the boys. 1 pleaded guilty. The 10 girls inside only had seconds to escape once it was caught on fire. Now, asked about the ongoing teen violence in Gilbert, the police chief, who's been crackerjack on all of this, was asked about these gang attacks plaguing the town. And he said, wait a minute. There's assault at the end of the driveway in Seville. There's a barn burning down with 10 teenage girls inside of it. This is not a Gilbert Goons. This is totally different. These are not examples of what we call group teen violence.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So it is a group of teens
committing violence.
But it's not examples of group teen violence. So just because it's different teens,
different. Yeah.
That doesn't make it group teen violence.
Well, here's the thing, though. if you don't call it group teen violence, then you can go on to, in the month of October, declare that the town had not experienced an act of group teen violence for more than 7 months. Yep. Groups of teens committing violence is not group teen violence, and that's why we haven't had any group teen violence since the beginning of the year. When we really started cracking down on the Gilbert Goons, who we didn't know about until local media put it all together.
So is it only group teen violence if it's a group of teens who commit a number of violent acts?
I got to be honest. I think it's group teen violence, except when Solberg needs to be able to say he's doing his job. That's what I think. And I hate to be one of these guys who's just vicious toward the elected officials, because I don't think anybody goes out there to do their job poorly. I think some people are just naturally talented at being bad at their job, and I think he's in that category.
But doesn't he take it a step further when he points the finger back at the media, at the public, at other individuals? He's not just bad at his job. He gets divisive about it. There's a way to be oblivious to what's going on.
Yeah.
This is next level.
He doubles down on his oblivion.
And he points the finger at other people for the reason why he's not doing his job.
Victims, parents, and community activists say that Solberg and other town officials appear more invested in preserving Gilbert's status as the second safest big city in America than in policing their own problems. According to Gilbert resident Brooklyn Gardner, a lot of things are brushed under the rug or not taken as seriously as they should be. Her son, by the way, was the one beaten in that Seville attack. She said, I feel what a lot of other parents have felt, where, things weren't properly handled, and I didn't feel like it was justified. So they go on to say in the article, Solberg, since December of 2023, Solberg has misled the public about his department's handling of the goons and other teen violence cases based on an investigation by the Arizona Republic. But, Joe.
Yes, Chris.
Let me float this out there.
Okay.
Is it possible, because, we always try to find nuance. We always try to figure out what are we missing in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible we've got it all wrong?
How so?
Is it possible that the whole Gilbert Goons saga never happened? That it's all made up, whole cloth? All because one of the newspaper reporters has a grudge. Is it possible there is no youth violence in Gilbert? Is it possible these beatings didn't really take place? Is it possible that everything's being overblown all because one of the reporters is angry at cops? Because if you listen to one Gilbert council member, you might be gaslighted to think that is the case. Gilbert council member, Joe, we were just talking about the Gilbert Goons and how the Gilbert police are still saying everything's rosy, no problems. Teen violence is non-existent in our community now. Ever since we stepped up and did the job that we weren't doing until we got called out. But now we're doing that job, even though you can specifically name a couple of times that we are not. We're doing the job. Safest city in America.
Not exactly.
Not exactly. Not when you have 10 girls who are in a barn that's been lit afire because their classmates didn't like that they weren't going out with them.
Or a group of loosely connected teens for years on the loose, assaulting and wreaking havoc on the town.
Well, it's possible, though, that I know we're listing a chapter and verse, but maybe the problem is not that there's teen violence in Gilbert or East Valley. Maybe the problem is not that the police chief is blaming the public for not disclosing to him that there was an organized gang who was beating people up.
What is the problem?
Maybe the problem is not that the said police chief is simply rearranging definitions of words and trying to make us believe, diddle-yoop, 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 diddle-yoop. You're all in a dream. None of this happened.
Oh, he flashy thinged us?
Yep, he did.
Oh.
Maybe the problem is those pesky reporters are making up these stories whole cloth. Maybe none of it happened, and maybe none of this would have ever upset anybody had it not been for the reporters who are trying to make a name for themselves by telling these stories.
Well, the media is far from perfect, but sure seems like Robert Anglin and Elena Santa Cruz have done a heck of a job with this story. So what does that say to all of the parents, teens, others who have stepped forward, who have said that this is what's going on?
I don't know, man, because you got a council member now that says that Robert Englund, one of the reporters on there.
Yeah, we've talked to him a number of times.
A career reporter who's got lots of big stories from decades of experience.
Oh, don't heap too much praise on him.
Well, a council member, Chuck Bongiovanni, says that, well, he's got a history. Yep.
History?
He's got a history.
Of?
Oh, that's a good question. It's just, suffice it to say, he's got a history.
Don't we all have a history?
The history between the police and this reporter, there's a history.
Between Gilbert police?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, there's a history. In fact, Bongiovanni used some graphic language by saying, do you know why Robert has a,
axe to grind?
Manly arousal.
Oh, okay.
Do you know why Robert has a manly arousal? For them, there's also a little personal issue, if you know what I mean.
I don't know what you mean.
That's what the council member said.
So he should tell me what he means.
He did not describe the little personal issue in his text.
Oh.
But we've got screenshots of the text. So
he beat around the bush.
We've got receipts of what he was saying. A different Robert Englund was arrested in 2013 on suspicion of harassing his ex-girlfriend, according to Gilbert police records. That Robert Englund now lives out of state, has a different birthday, different physical description, different middle name, different everything else.
Different guy.
From the Republic reporter that the council member is saying, well, he's got a manly arousal for the police department.
So maybe his arousal is due to something else. We don't even know for sure that it's about this arrest of a different Robert Englund from 11 years prior.
Yeah. Solberg's the chief of police.
Michael Solberg, yeah.
And town officials would not answer direct questions about Bongiovanni's text. They would... Isn't Bongiovanni John Bon Jovi's real name, too?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I'll give that a Google.
Okay, I'm going to start calling him...
Out.
All right, this is Chuck Bon Jovi. So, anyway... Solberg did not answer direct questions, would not say if they knew how Bongiovanni came to believe that Robert Englund, the Republic reporter, had a personal issue with the Gilbert police, or whether other town officials received false information about the reporter from Solberg or another police official.
Spell your Bongiovanni's last name.
Bon.
B-O-N.
Gio.
G-I-O.
Vanni.
V-I.
No, V-A-N-N-I.
It's B-O-N-G-I-O-V-I.
That's Bon Jovi?
Yeah. Bon Jovi is his last name.
No, then this guy's not as cool.
No.
All right, he's out.
Hey, you were on the right track.
Here's my favorite. This is the money line of the article from AZ Central.
Mm-hmm.
I love this. Do you know the executive editor at the Republic is Greg Burton? Greg Burton he's in the running for my News Guy of the Year award.
Oh, wow.
Based on this quote alone.
Okay.
All right. Here's what he said. Reporters Robert Englund and Ana Santa Cruz have worked around the clock for more than a year to uncover what police in Gilbert could or would not. Widespread and deadly teen violence. A smear and whisper campaign attacking the messenger is more evidence of a city prioritizing self-interest over public service. Woo!
Read that last part again?
Woo!
No, not your part. That part.
A smear and whisper campaign attacking the messenger is more evidence of a city prioritizing self-interest over public service.
Ouch.
Yeah. And that's on the heels of the previous article that we shared with you in our 3 o'clock segment, where the Gilbert police are like, there was no group teen violence. Well,
not for the last 7 months.
What about that attack in the driveway by teenagers?
No, not group teen violence.
Okay, what about that group of teens that lit a barn on fire that had other teenagers inside at the time?
Well, that's not the group teen violence we're talking about here, so that's not group teen violence.
Yeah. When people feel like they're backed into a corner and their safety is at stake, unless they can depend on the public safety apparatus, meaning the police chief and the department, they're going to start taking measures into their own hands. And this is what I worry about. That's when things start to escalate to a point where regaining control is almost impossible. We are witnessing in real time an accelerated decline of what was once a celebrated community. Only this time, the general public isn't going to be able to say, well, it's because of race, it's because of socioeconomic factors. This is just plain anarchy. And the police have not been able to get control of it. And as they continue to run wild, it's going to get worse. And we are going to have neighbors that are going to start saying, okay, I got to start taking matters in my own hands. And at some point, you're going to have one of these situations that we're talking about where the assailant gets shot by somebody's parent. You mark my words, unless they get control of this, we're going to have another dead kid. Because people are going to say, I've had enough and I have to protect my family. You watch.
And they haven't done anything that gives me any hint that they are going to get control of this anytime soon.
Same.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.